and welcome back to another episode of Jazz Biz Buzz. As promised, we're bringing you another industry. Today, we will be engaging in conversation with Ms. Ammara Masood, CEO NdcTech, and we'll be talking about how Pakistan's banking system is revolutionizing. Assalamu alaikum, Ammara. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and pleasure to be here.
It's all ours. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Why don't we start with a little bit of your professional journey? Tell us your journey, how you came to be here, and is it something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, so I think I ended up in the tech sector just by chance. My first job was with a company which was a US based company, and they were in technology. So NCR was my first job. And I found that whatever work that I did there, I was really passionate about it and wanted to progress my career in this field. So wherever I went, I somehow ended up in IT, and then of course built the business acumen to be able to run various companies throughout my career.
So let's talk a little about open banking. The term has been here for decades. However, it's still considered to be a best kept secret. How does it change banking and how does it affect the revenue streams?
Yeah, so I think if I go back in time, the way banking has operated, there was always this monolithic model for banking where every bank was doing both the manufacturing side, which is basically building products and doing the operations, as well as the distribution side, right? So they were going out and selling their own products themselves. But over time, and especially I would say in the last 10 years, this model has broken up, okay? And the distribution and manufacturing sides are now considered to be completely two different avenues. So there are some banks which are saying that they will focus only on the manufacturing side. That is, they will keep building new products which they can be offered in the market, and they will work with, let's say, with fintechs who can actually do the distribution for them, right? Or they will work with other providers like telecom operators who want to come into the digital space, e-commerce retailers who want to come into the front end. So they will work with them to be able to provide various transactional information, various products and operations. So this is how open banking came about, where there was a need to actually open the access to information, whether it is transactional information or product related information, to different players in the ecosystem. And that's how it has evolved.
Right. So what are the benefits of this when you are exposing all of this information to different kind of entities? What's the benefit of exposing that information? How does that work?
Yeah, so I think this is all being driven mainly because of customer demand. So you can see the behavior of the customer has changed over time, and especially during COVID, when more and more customers have moved to the digital channels, what they expect is they want banking to be their lifestyle, right? They don't want to go and visit a branch to either apply for a loan or to cash a check or deposit money. They want this to be a very natural way of how they operate in their normal day-to-day lives. And that is one of the reasons why open banking came into place, where banks said that, okay, we have to change the user experience of how we can provide these services, whether directly or indirectly through, whether it is through PSPs, through other distribution channels, through agents, through digital platforms, or through other aggregators who can actually take this information and provide that. So this is how it's evolving. But other than that, this also required a proper framework, and that is where the regulators come in. So if you look in the West, PSD2, which is one of the initiatives for payments, that basically came about maybe about 7-8 years ago. and now that this has taken. Now, of course, in UK you have UK open payments, and then in other parts of in different continents and different countries, there are various initiatives going on for open APIs. From technology perspective, and because I work with a banking software provider, this particular initiative has also changed how banking is done. So a lot of functionality related to, and a lot of changes in the architecture required to be done so that open banking can be available. And that's what was very exciting for all of us, how we can make the difference to provide composable banking to banks who can therefore provide the various business models like banking as a service, embedded finance, buy now pay later, request to pay. All of these initiatives have very much to do with some of the things which are happening in open banking.
So, as you said that you are in the business of building these softwares, I think Temenos is one software that you guys have been working with as well. How is that evolving? How is that catering for open banking, and how is it changing in Pakistan to cater for this kind of market?
Yeah, so I think Temenos is working very closely with some of the initiatives which are happening in open banking. Both in terms of providing, I mean, on the security side as well, because there is a lot of things which, if you give access from data point of view to other third-party providers, which you call TPPs, who can actually consume data from a bank, then it becomes very necessary that your security needs to be super tight. Otherwise, this information will be leaked, right? So from that point of view, Temenos has made, is working with various bodies from the architectural point of view, where they have now, made their architecture very scalable, included microservices, etc., so that when there are multiple millions of transactions which are being asked for from different third-party providers, that can be possible. Aggregation of information is one use case for open banking, and that aggregation of information requires that you are able to get information from not only just one bank but various banks. So if me as a customer, I have 3 different accounts in 3 different banks, plus I have a credit card with a 4th bank, and I have other types of services from another bank, I would like to be able to see all this information in one. So this kind of aggregation, third party providers can provide. So they don't need to build all these services. All they need is access to this information and be able to provide it to me as a customer. So those are things that Temenos is building as part of the platform. And the Infinity platform is very much going in that direction, where they would be able to provide to banks. And in Pakistan also, we are working with lots of banks to be able to build capabilities in this arena.
Okay, that's amazing to know actually. So let's talk a little about the exposure of data. So we are talking about exposing the bank data, which is actually considered to be sensitive data, and we are talking about exposing it to the customers, the consumers, the developers, and different third parties, right? So how do you control, and most of this data now is on the cloud as well. So how do you actually, make this data secure? How do you create this kind of balance between the data that the bank has and the customer has? How do you go about that?
So I think there are various frameworks. So data repudiation is one of the frameworks, and regulators are also involved. Technology companies are involved to make sure that they are following a standard on how they are giving access to the data, right? Because if everybody starts to do it on their own, then that becomes a problem also. BIAN is also another body which is working on that. So there are various frameworks under which this is being done, and the whole ecosystem has to work together to build how to make the data secure, because this is one of the most important things. Because me as a customer in open banking, I can actually say that I give the rights to my bank to expose my data to third parties, right? So if I can do that, then I am obviously trusting my bank that the way that they will provide this data, it will not be in the hands of the wrong people. And for that to happen, the whole ecosystem has to work together under a framework, including the regulator has to put in place various types of frameworks so that this can be consumed properly. And again, like you mentioned, the cloud providers like the Garage Cloud, and we are working with them closely in our partnership so that we can work on some of these areas when we are able to provide the banking cloud to our customers in Pakistan.
That's really nice to know. So while we're talking about all of these advancements and all of these terms, that I think even the developed countries of this world have not yet been able to fully, manifest in their infrastructures. I think one big question comes in when you think about the digital divide in Pakistan and the not so promising numbers of financial inclusion in Pakistan. Our audiences or our consumers are not yet aware of the kind of products that could be out there. How do you actually how do you respond to that? I mean, obviously, because we are building all of those things, if the consumer is not ready or aware or under the fold of financial inclusion, how do you respond to that?
So I think in terms of financial inclusion, as you know, in Pakistan, there has been a lot of stress on financial inclusion. And the regulator, State Bank of Pakistan, has come out with many policies which basically encourage banks to work with the unbanked and to make more people inclusive in banking, right? And to some extent, it has worked. They offered licenses for the branchless banking at one time, maybe in 2013 or 2011, somewhere at that time. And that opened up for Jazz as well as some of the other competitors to be able to provide access to banking for many of the consumers. Now, what probably did not happen the way the expectation was, that more and more use cases would be built because payments was not the only use case. And I think that is what happened with all of these segments. They focused only on one use case and they didn't develop or they did not innovate on more use cases to be able to branch this off. So the development was very slow. Now, as you know, in the last few years, the regulator came up with EMI licenses. That was also to basically make more people inclusive, like the SME segment was not really included. The youth, was not really inclusive in the banking, right? So they wanted that these type of models will help to accelerate and bring these kind of segments into the banking arena, right? And now we are coming up with the digital banking license. Yeah. So the digital banking license, whenever that will be given out, all of the entrants in the digital banking will basically want to go out to the non-banked, and of course they will want to penetrate with existing customers as well, but provide them different kinds of services and make things like open banking possible for them, so that there are more use cases which get opened. So I think more and more it will happen. As you know, in Pakistan, the smartphone is also having a lot of penetration, and that is increasing year by year.
Yeah.
So that will make a huge difference.
Despite the rising taxes on smartphones,
yes.
I think it's a good data point that it's increasing.
Yeah. But as you know that, I mean, on USSD channels and on text-based phones, there's not much innovation that one can do, but definitely when people are moving towards smartphone, there are use cases with embedded finance, and so many more things that you will be able to achieve.
Within your
But
palm.
this is not only about what you can provide from your digital platform, but it is also about the awareness, which
Yeah.
you talked about earlier. So it's very important that there is awareness provided in the different segments and where different providers or banks have not been able to reach out still, so that such products which would be in demand in those segments are able to be offered. So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So, Ammara, my last question to you is regarding women in tech. So we actually have been, I think the entire corporate sector have been building policies and quota systems and all of those things which are required to basically encourage women to adopt STEM fields and IT fields and all of these fields. What's your take on that? Do you think we have enough women in the IT industry at this point in time, or do you think we still need to go there?
No, we do not have enough women in IT, and especially I think in the leadership side, I see that there is definitely a lack of women. Many times I see myself, that I'm the only woman in the leadership in many events that I go to or many other interactions. Even if you look at the percentage, NdcTech is now part of the systems organization, which is the largest IT provider in Pakistan. And I mean, if we look at the percentage, we have a lot of improvement to be made. But I would say that in the last few years, since COVID happened, it definitely opened up opportunities for more women to come in, because there's work from home, which is now an option for women to have. And I think employers also realized that this is one segment they were not looking at before. But during COVID, when the work from home was available, this was one segment they could actually tap in. And we ourselves, made a lot of effort in that area. We also are running, programs of bringing back women into the corporate, women who had left work, maybe in the first 3-4 years, because they got married, they had children, and all of those things happened. But now, after 10 years, they want to come back to work. So we are equipping them with skills. We have different programs that we are running within NdcTech. Systems also has different programs running within systems, so that they can bring back women into the workforce. And many other organizations we would like to encourage to join hands and work on those things.
That's very encouraging, actually. I think it's really important to actually go to the collegiate level and tell girls to actually opt for fields in IT and opt for fields in science, which can give them good futures as well. So with that, thank you so much, Ammara. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
We will be back with another episode of Jazz Biz Buzz. Stay tuned.
Jazz Business, designed to help you grow.